surface, and that will impact all the processes which are happening in the soil. Then runoff flow rates increase, flooding frequencies increase. This part will be later. So these are some of the impacts of urbanization on hydrologic cycle. Have we covered everything or something is missing? Reduction of this one. Okay. Yeah, I mean, in this diagram, have we covered everything or there is something which is not appearing in the diagram? Just think about it, whether you see anything, you experience something which is missing here, and meanwhile, you should proceed. So this part also will be covered later. Okay, now this is specifically how the hydrological cycle changes due to urbanization. So this one composite picture actually, basically there are two pictures. One is water cycle before urbanization, another is water cycle after urbanization. I'm sure you are familiar with water cycle or hydrological cycle. In the nature, water moves in a circular motion, you can say, due to solar energy. So because of solar energy, water evaporates from ocean, it enters into atmosphere. Atmosphere works as a storage as well as carrier of water moisture or water vapors. So water vapor move from one place to other in the atmosphere. When the conditions are favorable, there will be precipitation at some place. The precipitation falls on the land surface. So some water infiltrates, some water runs off. The water that infiltrates, it enters into the groundwater zone. It may percolate deeper, it may come out and enter some water bodies of lake and pond. Due to solar energy, water will evaporate from the pond or it may also evaporate from the land. There is a process called evapotranspiration which happens in the plants. And finally, water runs off, goes to the ocean, then again evaporates. So this cycle continues non-stop due to energy derived from sun. But as a result of urbanization, some changes in the cycle may take place in the sense that some components may have higher magnitude, some may have lesser magnitude. This is what you can see on the diagram right hand side. So here, for example, earlier this place was all exposed soil and other features, but as a result of urbanization, some of this may become paved. So there will be less opportunity for water to enter into the ground, which is depicted by decreased infiltration. And as infiltration increases, the amount of water that is present in the saturated zone or longer zone, that water decreases. So water tables start falling down. Other reason is that in the urbanized area, you have more withdrawal, more use of water. So you are putting less into the groundwater zone, but withdrawing more. The combined effect would be that the water tables begin to fall. Now, as less and less rain infiltrates into the ground, more and more water will flow over the catchment surface, so surface runoff will increase. Okay. Then, if we remove these trees from this place, maybe because of construction of buildings, forests are removed, trees are removed. So again, there was some infiltration, but that is reduced now. So evapotranspiration, which was taking place at a higher rate, is now taking place at a lower rate. Further, we just saw that when people live in urban areas, their lifestyle changes. So in most of the cases, more and more waste is produced, leading to increased pollution of water bodies. Right? So this here is a pictorial depiction of the changes in processes which take place due to urbanization. And it is briefly summarized here. Increased water withdrawal from surface and groundwater, increased peak of flow, diminishing base flow, reduced filtration, increased pollution of rivers and aquifers. Okay. Now, we will discuss this increased peak flow in the next slide. So here we have hydrological impact of urbanization in terms of river flow, its peak as well as other measures. So the purple color here shows the river flow in the pre-urban conditions before the development areas. So here on the x-axis we have the y-axis is river flow, and these blocks that you see here, these represent precipitation events or rainfall. So this rainfall is leading to some river flow. Before the urbanization, the river flow behavior might be what you see through the purple curve, but after urbanization, some changes take place. One thing is water moves fast on a paved surface and less water infiltrates. And because of these two reasons, the peaks start appearing earlier and the magnitude of peak also increases because less water is infiltrating to the ground. So these are two changes which take place in terms of river flow. Right? Any question, comment, suggestion? Too elementary. Everybody? Okay. Now you can ask a question that if these are the changes, can we predict these changes? Can we assess these changes? Suppose I have to construct a new city and I know what is the ground condition before I construct the city. So what are the tools that I have to understand what kind of changes are going to take place? That is my problem, to determine change in runoff from a catchment due to change in land use land cover. Change in land use land cover means, for example, urbanization is taking place. So a number of tools are present here. We have a range of hydrologic models, right from very simple to complex, that can be used. Let us try to see one simple method which is called SCS-CN method. SCS stands for Soil Conservation Services and CN is current. So I hope that most of you will be familiar. Okay, so you are aware of this equation where Q is P minus 0.2s square divided by P plus 0.8s, where Q is runoff, P is precipitation, and S is a parameter which is called maximum of potential retention. This is the maximum amount of watershed, maximum amount of moisture that can be retained in a watershed. We know that this quantity S has a very large range, can vary between 0 to infinity, and this is sometimes difficult to manage. So to do that, this quantity S is mapped on a dimensionless number which is called curve number, and this curve number can vary in a more manageable range, which is 0 to 100. The conversion from curve number to S is given by this equation. S equal to 25400 upon curve number minus 254. So if Cn is equal to 0, then S becomes infinity, this upper bound, and if Cn is 100, then S becomes 0, the lower bound. Okay. So in the SCS method, the watershed is represented by this quantity S and by this quantity Cn. Okay. Cn, as the Cn rises, then S will reduced. Okay. So for a surface like this, where I am standing, Cn would be almost close to 100% or say 98 or something like that. Why? Because this surface cannot absorb any water, it is something like polythene. So there will be no retention of this kind of surface. Okay. Now, another important thing for SCS is what is called as soil cover classification. So to determine runoff, we also need to know what kind of soils are present in the catchment. SCS has provision for 4 types of soils: group A, B, C, and D. And the characteristics of all these soils are written here very briefly. Group A soils will have a very high infiltration rate, very low runoff potential, and Group B soils have very high runoff potential. Group B and C soils will have something internal. Okay, this is also clear. So now, to make the life simpler, SCS has developed a table which is called curve number table, where the curve number corresponding to different land uses and different hydrological soil groups are given. So, for example, if we have wood or forest land with this kind of description, then depending upon what kind of cover is there, the curve number can be estimated provided with the soil type. So hydrological soil group A will give me curve number 45 for this type of land use. B will be 66, 77, and 83. As you can see, the curve number increases from A to B. That means runoff potential will increase. Okay. Here we have a land use which is called meadow in good condition. And for this, the curve number for B type of soils is 80. You will be wondering why I have calculated this number. So let us move. But any question here? Okay. So we move now, and now we have a problem. The problem is we have a watershed whose area is 25 square kilometer. It has meadow, that is the land cover, in good condition, and group B soils. So this are a sort of forested type or meadow type watershed. But somebody decided to develop a city here, and gradually people started coming to this place, started living. And after some time, this place was completely urban area, with 75% of the area was occupied by residential space with this plot size. Of the remaining area, 15% had paved parking space and 10% paved streets. Now the question is that we need to compute runoff in the pre and post development scenarios, given that one day rainfall is 50 mm. Clear? Any question? Question on the question? No question. So let us try to do that. How we can do? Okay. So we know the SCS equation Q equal to E minus 0.2S 0.8. Yes. Is this right or something is wrong? Have to be very careful. Okay. Now what is given? We are given the land use. So it is meadow, good condition, group B soil. So let us go back to our table, and for meadows, good condition, group B soil, 58. Okay. So CN is 58. What would be S? 254 divided by 58. 254. How much will it be? You have calculators or mobiles or laptop.
183.
What?
83.9.
184.
184. Sure.
184 is correct.
183.
Okay. CN is 58, so everybody got same number?
Yes.
Okay. So now let us try to compute Q, given that P equal to 53. Okay. This will be 50 minus 0.2 into 184 square divided by 50 plus 0.8. What do we have?
Point eight.
Hmm? 0.83. 0.8388. So this will be the runoff produced by this water current in the pre-development stage. Now, after development, what does it say? Is that we have three land uses. LU1 equal to is residential with 1/8 acre plot. And this is 75% of the area. So residential with 1/8 acre plot and group B soils, so curve number would be 85, right? Then we have paved parking lots. LU2. Paved parking lots, and for that the curve number is, this is 15% I guess. This is 98, almost impervious. And third is streets and road, paved road. So LU3 equal to paved roads, 10%, again 98. Okay. This is the change condition. Now we can determine what is called weighted curve number. So for that, what we do is we multiply 0.75 into 85. How much it will be? 5 by 0.75 into 63.75 and 0.15 into
14.7.
14.7. Good. And 0.1 here, so that is 9.8. Then what is going to be the sum here? The rest of those plus
88.25.
58.25. Okay. So this is our revised curve number. And now F would be 25400 divided by 8.25 minus 254. This will be how much?
Three point
33.81. Okay. So you can see that there is dramatic reduction in S, and now our Q would be 50 minus 0.2 into 33.81 square divided by 50 minus 50 plus 0.8. 8 into 33.81. How much we have? कैसे रखें? अभी थोड़ा सा। Something wrong? Hmm?
44.26.
44.26.
20.
24. Right. So now you see, as a result of parcelization, this is the kind of change that we have. Earlier, from a rainfall of 50 millimeters, we were getting runoff only 0.88 millimeters. But now, same rainfall is producing a runoff of 24.26. Almost half of the rain is coming out of the catchment as runoff. While in earlier case, it was just 2%. So from 2% to 50%, this is the kind of change. So the purpose of this example is to illustrate the kind of change that we can have. And we have some tools to estimate what would be the runoff from the same watershed in the change condition. Nothing has changed except the latitudes. But you can argue that there will be other changes also that change in precipitation that we are going to cover later. So this example was just, it's a very simple example. The purpose was to make you appreciate the kind of changes that can happen. Now, this type of tools allow us to do one more thing. Suppose you go with this plan to a, let's say, government, to a state government, that we want to construct a city here, this is going to be the revenues in that city, and this will be the kind of changes in the runoff. So let us say, well, this is too big a change. This is going to be quite hazardous. There will be lots of difficulties. So do something. Try to change the development pathways so that the change is not that drastic. If that is the situation, what can you do? बस समझ सकते हो आपको कुछ डेवलपमेंट करना है पर जब आप अपना प्रपोजल लेके गए तो लोग कह सकते हैं कि ये तो आपने जो कराया इससे तो बहुत ज्यादा नुकसान हो सकता है तो ठीक है आप सिटी तो बनाइए पर ऐसा बनाइए कि इसका इम्पैक्ट थोड़ा कम हो तो क्या कर सकते हैं आप
Leave some spaces for infiltration.
Exactly. So there are several things you can do. You see, this area has a low turn number, although it is quite high. This area has very large turn numbers. So try to reduce this area to the extent possible. Roads, of course, one cannot reduce, but this was parking lot, paved parking lot. Okay. So rather than paved parking lots, you can have something like what is called
Forest area.
The force index.
porous. There are tiles which are porous. There are tiles which have holes in between. So this may be a tile, and there may be holes here. Of course, not so big. Small holes which allow water to infiltrate. So one thing you can do is change the parking lot and put this type of tiles. Other thing is, in this part also you can do maybe something, as she says, don't have too much paved place, have paved but at lesser place. So residential size can be smaller, so that you have more open space and you have more possibilities for water to infiltrate. So the idea is this hydrological knowledge can be used to estimate the consequences of the changes, and you can see whether these changes are going to be acceptable or not acceptable. If these are not acceptable, then before construction itself, you can change your plan so that the changes are acceptable. Okay. That was the purpose of this exercise.
Not only land use, also the topography slope.
Exactly. So many things you can do. Yeah, topography change can be controlled in some way so that water stays on the ground for longer time. That means the peak which is coming much earlier can be slightly delayed. Okay. The river flow is having several components. One is magnitude, another of the peak, another is the total volume. Total volume can be controlled by this way, and then the time of arrival of peak, she said, can be controlled by changing the slope or maybe putting some small value, putting something what is called check dams, okay, to arrest the movement of water, to arrest the movement of soil and make the change more accessible.
One thing is, what do you do in case of multiple peaks?
Multiple peaks.
Storm intensity is different.
Yeah, storm intensity, okay. Let me ask you now, what do you mean by different storm intensities? There are succession of storms one after another, right? So if you can have some measure, for example, change in slope, that will apply to one storm or 10 storms. Okay. That will have same impact. So all the peaks will be somewhat reduced. Okay. और क्या कर सकते हैं?
Tree plantation.
Tree plantation, very good. This part I thought I will cover later. So tree plantation, what is called green development.
Green spaces.
ग्रीन स्पेसेस ग्रीन डेवलपमेंट और उसके कई सारे फायदे हैं उसके भी बाद में आएंगे सो दैट इज वन थिंग मोर यू कैन डू अनदर थिंग व्हिच इज बिकमिंग वेरी कॉमन कई बिल्डिंग्स में भी उसको लोग कहते हैं करो एनफोर्समेंट्स आर देयर रेगुलेशंस आर देयर एनी आइडिया
Artificial recharge.
Construction.
Artificial
रेन वाटर so rain water harvesting is another thing you have seen that in same residences. But using rainwater harvesting, you can allow water to infiltrate, so less water will come into the stream. Maybe you have infiltration which is quite close to what it used to be earlier. So, if you know that the change is not acceptable, then you can start thinking. And just now we thought and we came up with 4-5 solutions. तो जब हम सोचेंगे तो हमारे पास solutions हम सबको पता है पर कई बार हम लोग उसको इतना आइडिया नहीं होता बट जब लगेगा ना अरे बहुत ज़्यादा then you can think of the solutions and then your development will be.
Big problem modern city like Bangalore. All over Bangalore city construction development concrete.
So उस point को भी cover करेंगे उसको. Very good point you have raised. That we are going to
Where
cover.
water is very very big problem to our society.
उसको भी cover करेंगे. That is a ill effect of urbanization or unwise urbanization. और कुछ इसमें? Can you move now? इसको मुझे बैठा सोचा है. Oh, good. Okay, now this was one part. Another part could be change in the inputs because of changes like climate change. तो अभी तो ये जो land use change था because of human reasons, climate change also because of human reasons, and climate change is going to now change the P part of this equation. Okay, the land use change has changed the F part. Climate change can change the P part. What can be that change? And recently we have this assessment report by IPCC. IPCC से तो आप लोग सब परिचित होंगे. IPCC. No. All I is not Indian. It is इंटरगवर्नमेंटल पैनल ऑन क्लाइमेट
Climate
चेंज।
change.
ओके, जैसे क्लाइमेट चेंज की समस्या बहुत भयंकर हो रही है।
अभी नाउ सर रिसेंटली हुआ है ना मिस्र में
कहाँ?
क्लाइमेट चेंज के ऊपर।
हाँ, एक इजिप्ट में हुआ था, दैट वाज कॉप, कॉन्फ्रेंस ऑफ पार्टीज, समवॉट रिलेटेड। पर एक ये बॉडी बनाई गई थी WMO और यूनेप में। WMO यूनाइटेड नेशंस की स्पेशलाइज्ड एजेंसीज है।
What meteorological?
हाँ, एक तो है वर्ल्ड मीटियोलॉजिकल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, आपने सही कहा, और दूसरी है यूनेप।
United Nation Environmental Program.
यूनाइटेड नेशंस
Environment.
एनवायरमेंट प्रोग्राम। तो इन दोनों ने मिलकर बॉडी बनाई, दिस इज कॉल्ड IPCC, इंटर गवर्नमेंटल पैनल ऑन क्लाइमेट चेंज। सारी गवर्नमेंट्स के इसमें रिप्रेजेंटेटिव होते हैं।
ऑल ओवर वर्ल्ड ऐसा।
हाँ, ये इंटरनेशनल बॉडी, इनका कोई एक वो नहीं होता। तो IPCC का एक काम ये है कि जो एनवायरमेंट की हमारी कंडीशंस हैं या क्लाइमेट की, उसको ये असेस करते हैं और एक रिपोर्ट निकालते हैं, which is called असेसमेंट रिपोर्ट, और इन शॉर्ट AR। और अभी कुछ दिनों पहले इन्होंने जो 6 AR निकाली है, which is called AR6 और 6 असेसमेंट रिपोर्ट। तो ये रिपोर्ट अवेलेबल है फ्रीली, आप कोई भी डाउनलोड कर सकते हैं और इसको पढ़िए, बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है। दिस इज वन फिगर टेकिंग फ्रॉम IPCC, और इसमें ये आप देख रहे होंगे कि हेक्सागन है, बट ये हेक्सागन के थ्रू इन्होंने पूरे वर्ल्ड को रिप्रेजेंट किया है अप्रोक्सीमेटली। ओके, एंड वी फॉल इन दिस रीजन SAS, which is साउथ एशियन रीजन। ओके, तो IPCC इसके द्वारा क्या दिखा रही है, वो ये कहते हैं कि जो क्लाइमेट चेंज है उसकी वजह से प्रेसिपिटेशन, particularly this is concerned with heavy precipitation, is going to change at many places over the world. और यहाँ पे नोटेशन है कि जो ग्रीन कलर के बॉक्सेस हैं उनमें प्रेसिपिटेशन इंक्रीज करेगा, जो ये मटमैले कलर के हैं, सॉइल कलर, where precipitation will decrease, so there is no place where it will decrease. Then in the white boxes there is low agreement in the type of change. There are gray boxes which have limited data to give a clear picture. So anyway, for South Asian region, the region where we are located, the box is of green color, which means precipitation will increase. Now, this type of assessment is made based on models which are called climate models. And there may be situation where all the models suggest similar type of change. There may be situations where some models say it is going to increase, some models say it is not going to increase, and so on. So for that, they have used this notation, the number of dots. Okay. For South Asian region, there is only one dot, which means low due to limited agreement. So different models do not agree that there is going to be similar type of change. So there is less agreement among the models, and that's why our confidence to say that human contribution is resulting in this type of change is limited or low. Okay. There are places where all the dots are filled, that means there is very high confidence. There are boxes where these dots are not filled, which is low due to limited experience. So confidence is low. Anyway, for our region, let us again understand that precipitation is going to increase, but we have low confidence because there is limited agreement with the model. So this was about the key part of this equation, but please also note that this is a huge area and the changes will not be uniform over the entire South Asian region. There will be regional patterns, there will be regional changes within this big area. So urbanization will have impact on the cycle or runoff generated because there will be changes in P given by this type of change, and there will be changes in S, which again will depend upon how the humans develop the system. What kind of development takes place. Now, coming to rainfall property, this is another very interesting observation. And here, what they have done, they had the data, and in India, the data is provided by an organization called IMD for rainfall. This is India meteorological data. So, this group analyzed the rainfall data for Bangalore city, and they had the short-term data from 1969 to 2019. Short-term means hourly data for this place, Bangalore. Okay, we are Bangalore की बात कर रहे थे ना, तो हम पहले रेनफॉल की बात करेंगे, फिर जो आपका टॉपिक था उस पर भी आएंगे. तो यहाँ पे क्या किया है, जो एक्स एक्सिस है इसके तो रेनफॉल का ड्यूरेशन, 1 घंटे की रेनफॉल हुई, 2 घंटे की हुई, 12 घंटे, 24 घंटे. Y axis पे rainfall intensity in terms of millimeter per hour. मतलब अगर 6 घंटे रेनफॉल हुई है तो उस रेनफॉल की इंटेंसिटी क्या है. ओके, और ये आपने ऑब्जर्व भी किया होगा कि जैसे जैसे ड्यूरेशन बढ़ती जाती है रेनफॉल की इंटेंसिटी, एवरेज इंटेंसिटी कम होती जाती है. बहुत तेज बारिश पड़ती है 15-20 मिनट, पर अगर आधे घंटे हो तो वो तेज होगी पर इतनी तेज नहीं होगी, 1 घंटे और कम होगी. सो वन थिंग इज दैट with the increase in duration, the average intensity reduces.
वेदरिंग कंडीशन के ऊपर डिपेंड करता है.
नहीं, ये तो मेजरिंग कंडीशन, तो जनरल रेनफॉल की प्रॉपर्टी है, वो अलग है, वो तो सीजनल है. पर रेनफॉल की जो इंटेंसिटी है, चाहे जुलाई हो, इसमें हम ये नहीं बता रहे किस महीने में पड़ रही है, कभी भी हो रही है. पर अगर वो 1 घंटे का स्टॉर्म है तो एवरेज इंटेंसिटी क्या है, 2 घंटे का है तो क्या है. जैसे ह्यूमंस का होता है ना, अगर आपसे कहूँ यहाँ से वहाँ तक भाग लो, आप बहुत तेज भागोगे. अगर कहें यहाँ से थोड़ा और लंबा भागो तो आपकी एवरेज स्पीड कम हो जाएगी. सो सेम थिंग इज देयर. सो एनीवे, नाउ दिस एंटायर डेटा वाज डिवाइडेड इनटू 3 सेगमेंट्स फॉर दिस ग्राफ. फर्स्ट इज 1969 टू 86. तो जो लोअर ग्राफ है, this was the data from 1969 to 86, and here you can see that intensity for 1 hour rain was about 60 millimeter per hour, for 2 hours 42, 6 hours 70, and for 24 hours it was about 6.6 millimeter per hour. Okay, same location, but if you use the data from 1969 to 2019, इसमें तो यहाँ पे सीरीज खत्म हो गई, इसमें रिसेंट डेटा भी था. Then you see 1 hour rainfall intensity is now increasing to 75.31. 2 hour intensity is increasing to 52.37, and so on. And then if you see only recent data, that is 1986 to 2019, then the intensity further increases to 84 millimeter per hour, 57.5 millimeter per hour, and so on. तो इससे हम क्या कंक्लूजन निकाल सकते हैं, इससे यह है कि जैसे जैसे हम आगे बढ़ रहे हैं रेनफॉल की इंटेंसिटीज बढ़ रही है. ओके, ऑल अक्रॉस द टाइम्स रेनफॉल इंटेंसिटीज आर इंक्रीजिंग. इंटेंसिटी ऑफ 1 hour ड्यूरेशन is increasing, 2 hour duration, 6 hour duration, 12 hour, and so on. And why these are changing? One reason could be climate change. As the global warming is taking place, rainfall intensities are increasing, और इसमें एक और रीजन हो सकता है अर्बनाइजेशन, इसको भी कवर करेंगे. But this is about the changes in rainfall intensities as reflected in the observed data. Then some people try to predict what could be there in store in future. So same rainfall duration, intensity relations or graphs were prepared. This bottommost curve is for observed data, for the data which has been observed. 4 other curves are predictions. What could happen in future? और जो लोग climate change से थोड़ा परिचित हैं, this is some indicator of what kind of scenario would be present in future in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. 4.5 is the greenhouse gas emission will lead to additional radiative force of 4.5 watt per meter square. So, depending upon what kind of climate scenario we will have in future, the rainfall intensities will further increase as we go forward. Okay. So this is about rainfall intensity duration frequency. तो अगर रेनफॉल इंटेंसिटी बढ़ती है तो इससे क्या हो सकता है, हमारे यहाँ पे फ्लडिंग की ज्यादा समस्या हो सकती है, फ्लैश फ्लड्स आ सकती हैं, अर्बन फ्लड्स। और आपने देखा होगा जब मानसून के टाइम पे टीवी पे शो आते हैं तो आते हैं ना न्यूज कि बम्बई में देखिए इस तरह की सिचुएशन है, बेंगलोर में जो पॉश कॉलोनीज हैं वो डूब गई हैं पानी में, लोग नाव पे जा रहे हैं, ट्रैक्टर में बैठ के जा रहे हैं, so two changes are taking place because of urbanization and climate change. Urbanization की वजह से हमारा लैंड कवर चेंज हो रहा है, climate change की वजह से precipitation properties चेंज हो रही हैं, and both are resulting into higher flow. This higher flow means there will be higher flooding events. Okay. Third thing which I wanted to show here was you might be aware about the hydrological way to present flow characteristics called flow duration curve. आप लोग परिचित हैं flow duration curve से? You are familiar. How about others? Okay, you are not familiar. So there are two ways to represent discharge in a river. One is hydrograph, which we have seen just now, that you have a curve of time versus discharge, and that is called a okay. So एक तरीका तो ये है, and we have this type of curve. Another is what you see on the screen here. These are called flow duration curves. So here y-axis तो अभी भी flow है, but x-axis is now percentage of time. Okay, and 0 to 100, that's the range on the x-axis, and you have a curve like this. Let's say this value is 50 and this is 20%. अब इसका इंटरप्रिटेशन क्या है, आप बहुत मैं आपको कठिन चीज बता रहा हूँ। इसका मतलब ये है कि 20% ऑफ द टाइम, हम जब एक साल की बात कर रहे हैं, सो 20% ऑफ द टाइम, 20% कितना हुआ, एक साल में 365 दिन हुआ तो 36 दूनी 72, करीब 72 दिनों पे जो फ्लो होगा वो 50 यूनिट और होगा, ऐसा ठीक है।
फिर से
बता दूं, यहाँ पे परसेंटेज ऑफ टाइम, percentage of time can vary only between 0 to 100. 0 means nothing is there, 100 means 100%. Okay. 1 year has 365 days, so 100% time is at all the days in the year. Okay. So all the time in a year, at least this much flow is present in the river. साल में कभी भी ऐसा दिन नहीं होगा कि जब फ्लो इससे कम होगा. So this you can say is the minimum flow. और अगर हर समय रिवर में थोड़ा बहुत फ्लो है, इसका मतलब ये है कि पेरिनियल रिवर. There are two types of rivers, one is perennial, another is ephemeral. तो पेरिनियल रिवर में तो हर समय कुछ ना कुछ फ्लो रहेगा. सपोज दिस इज ए पॉइंट ऑफ 80%. तो ये जो रिवर है जिसमें कि डॉटेड से दिखाया गया है, इस रिवर में 80% के बाद जीरो फ्लो. That means 20% of the time this river remains dry. This is a ephemeral river. Okay, while this is perennial river. और यहाँ पे हमने बताया था कि at least 20% of the time the flow in the river is 50 units or more. Okay. Similarly, we can have some other points. Let's say 50%, and this may be 30. So 50% of the time, about 180 days, the flow in the river is 30 units or more. Okay. This is a way to represent the variability of flow in the river And it has various uses. One uses to compute how much energy can be generated from this river, if we have to generate energy, what kind of machines we should use, and so on. So this is a very useful way to present the flow behavior, and this is called flow duration curve. Now, important thing here is that this flow duration curve is plotted for the observed data, and then computations were made for different percentage of urbanization. So suppose in the catchment 10% of the area is converted to urban area, 20%, 30%, then how the flow behavior will change. So you can see that as we have more and more urbanization, the flow duration curve is rising. That means for 20% of the time, earlier the water availability was, let's say, 8 units. After 60% urbanization, it becomes 21 units. So more and more flow will be available in the river for the same time. Two things are important here. One is the upper end of the curve. So that means more flow will be available in the river for this short duration, which means the river will have high flood potential. As a result of urbanization, flooding events will increase, but the low flow events will not be increasing much. You can see that in this part, near the tail end, all the curves are almost identical. So the tail end behavior will not change, but the head behavior will change. That means more and more floods can be experienced, can be expected due to climate change, and less impact will be seen on the low flows. Okay. So this is more or less in agreement with our salt example this year, that here the flow was changing very high, and we were probably somewhere in this region. Clear? ये clear है? Stop. Yes. Now, urbanization or anything can be done in two ways. One way is you do it wisely. Another way is you do it foolishly. Let us see some example of unwise urban development. And these are two pictures from our Chennai city. Okay. Here, the red area shows the urban area, the green area, and the blue area shows roads, and the white color is for soil surface and open areas. These two figures are, this is recent, around 2018, this was old figure, around 2000. So you can see that in this period of about 18 to 20 years, there has been terrific development in Chennai. And one very unwise thing is that earlier, there were lots of water bodies, marshy areas near the city or surrounding the city. And during high rainfall, this area used to absorb floods. But now this whole area has been converted to urbanized area. It is no longer able to absorb the rainfall, and small intensity of rainfall is leading to floods. So this is example of unwise development, how we can make our own life difficult. Okay. This is another example of unwise urban development, and this is a picture from Kerala. There was a very huge flood in Kerala, where there was a lot of submergence, many deaths took place. One reason was that people have constructed houses very close to the river, almost inside the river channel. Houses have been constructed, and whenever there is intense rainfall, whenever there is high flow in the river, all these houses will be submerged. You don't require really to be a genius person to say that these houses will be submerged. You see, the infrastructure is also submerged. So the ways to go out of the city that are also now blocked, and people cannot leave the city in case of a flood. Okay. And another example, same Kerala flood. And again, you see, all over the place without bothering whether the place is good for house, whether it is not good for house. People have built construction, people have built houses. So several reasons are behind the increased incidences of flood, but one reason which is starkly clear in our country is unwise urban development. When we start to construct houses, we simply are not bothered about the topography, about the hydrology, about the soil characteristics, and so on. There are more than one examples how the cities have grown. So this is the example from Bangalore. This is a satellite picture of Bangalore from the year 1973. And at that time, the urban area was only 55 square kilometers. As a result of development, in the year 2002, city expanded, and then the area was 258 square kilometers, 5 times more. And then in 2014, the urban area of Bangalore was 550 square kilometers, 10 times the area which was occupied in 1973. So as you pointed out, this huge expansion, and in this expansion, you can see that many of the ponds have been occupied, they have been filled, people have constructed houses. Now you may fill a pond, but the topography doesn't change, it remains a low-lying area. So whenever there is high rain, water will rush in from all the sides, causing submergence. And this is not only in Bangalore, city after city, for example, urban expansion of Delhi. In 1994, the urban area was 273, then 2004 it is 426, 2014 it is 623. So here also there is a huge expansion in urban area. Then Lucknow, the urban area was 77 square kilometer in 95. In 2005, 144, almost double. And 10 more years, it is now 200 square kilometer. So significant. Okay. Now these are the pictures for two cities, 2005 to 15. So this you see the picture of Delhi. And in Delhi, the urban area has expanded by about 8% from 2005 to 15. Similarly, in Kolkata, the urban area has increased by Mumbai by more than 10% in this same period. So, all our cities are expanding like anything, and while expansion is taking place, it is haphazard growth. At very few places, the urban areas are planned and growth is planned. Same is the situation for Calcutta from 1990 to 2015. You can see the kind of growth taking place. Okay. Now, this growth sometimes leads to very huge devastation. And this year, so this is the picture from our famous Kedarnath.
Yeah.
There was a huge flood in this part in 2013, and there was considerable damage. And one reason behind this damage was, of course, very high flood, but another reason was again unwise development. So this year we have Kedarnath temple, and you can see these areas surrounding the temples. These were what is called dry river channels. The river used to flow through these channels long ago, but for many years no water was seen in these channels. So these were called dry channels, and people wrongly assumed that there will never be any water in the channels. But when there was intense rainfall, river started flowing here, and in this case it was not water only, it was water mixed with boulders. And when the boulders move at such a steep slope, you can see the kind of slopes which are present here. So steep slope means very high flow velocity of water, and this flow velocity accompanied by boulders. These act like missiles. So they developed and destroyed whatever came in their way. And almost all the construction which was made in this so-called dry river channels were damaged or were swept away by the moving water. So urbanization itself is not bad, but unwise urbanization, developing urban areas, constructing houses, disregarding the topographic conditions, disregarding the soil conditions, and disregarding the weather. That is a sure recipe for damage. This here is a picture from Netherlands, and I wish to demonstrate how they are managing floods. So what you are there, this all part was earlier consisting of residential areas. What their government did, they purchased the plots from the people who are living in this area, destroyed or removed those houses, and now this area is left vacant is for the river to flow. And this concept was called boom for the river. The idea is that if you want to control the damage due to floods, then river should be given place where it can move. So this place is occupied by the river during high flows. Since there are no houses, nobody lives in this place, there is no flood damage. So this is how they are controlling flood damages in the urbanized area. This is picture from China, Yangtze River, near city of Wuhan. And you can see on either side of the river, they have left what they call banks or flood plains. Nobody lives here. This is all used by people for walking, for refreshing, for recreation, but no permanent structure is present. So as a result, during flood times, when the river water spills on these floodplains, there is no damage. So damage because of high river flow can be controlled provided we have urban development which is in consonance with the nature. Okay. Now, another picture of unwise development and unwise management is this is from a typical city in India. So you can see that there is a nala flowing, and here we have a culvert. But this culvert is choked because of dumping of waste, plastic, and so on. So what happens is this culvert is expected to move water, but when there are floods, this culvert will not be able to transport water because it is completely choked. So in addition to unwise development, our management is also very poor. Most of the city drains are choked because people just dump waste on those drains, and those drains are not able to function properly. They are not able to transport water. Another example is the boundary walls which we construct or compound walls. So this here is a compound wall. Earlier maybe water was flowing like this, which was low-lying area, but very smartly people constructed boundary walls. And so water now cannot go from this place to this place. So what happens during flood periods when the flow is high, water will be piled behind these walls. Either it will cause submergence behind the walls, or when the water level has risen sufficiently, the force is high enough, this wall will be broken. Okay, so in this process, you will cause flooding as well as damage to the infrastructure. So again, construction of compound walls, the natural waterway, is one cause of flooding in our Indian cities. Water is no longer able to move through the natural path and it causes damages. Okay. So flooding can be controlled to a large extent if we follow wise development and if we maintain our infrastructure carefully. For this Chennai floods of 2015, some assessments were made by a group of researchers from IISc and from IIT Madras, and they came up with three sets of recommendations which can be followed in short term, in medium term, and in longer term to control the flooding. particularly for this city of Chennai, in short term, we have to be careful about tidal levels, warming of Bay of Bengal, which is likely to cause more intense rainfall. Then maintenance of drainage system is very much essential. We just saw the picture, this was in fact from Chennai. Then we should develop procedures to forecast the flood. If we can predict in advance what kind of floods are likely to happen, then we can control the floods or manage the floods better. Then reservoir operation. There were some reservoirs upstream of Chennai which were not optimally operated. So these reservoirs can help in flood regulation by storing some of the water which is likely to cause damage. Then quick administrative response and societal response. These are two important things. Administrative people should be able to rescue the people in time, provide relief, and society can also form groups and networks which can help each other in minimizing the damage. These are some short-term measures. Medium term, we have to understand the processes like El Nino, La Nina, global climate change, urban heat island, land use change. So land use change we have seen, urban heat island and covered shortly. And then in long term, the development of rural areas. We have to really review our policies for this kind of development. This development is going to cause harm to people in the long term. Then hydrologic design of drainage. Drainage design needs to be reviewed in terms of changing rainfall intensities, encroachment of the floodplains. Like in Kerala, we have to remove this encroachment, otherwise nature will remove, as happened in Kerala. If you don't go yourself, nature will come someday and remove everything. That is one of the questions. So these are the set of measures which came out after a quick assessment of Chennai floods of 2015, and this should be a guideline for all the urban development in the country. Now, let me cover this topic of urban heat island effect. But any question here? Suggestion? Concerns? So clear?
But when zoning in India, also there are demarcations like interland. Is it possible to demarcate? Even if it is possible, like if we take the case of Yamuna in Delhi, people wait till the water is above the danger line. They keep on watching. The actual evacuation takes place only when the water really, there's a warning from CWC that the water level is crossing the danger level, and maybe in 72 hours or 48 hours, it will reach this particular level. Then only the evacuation will take place. So we need to have some alternatives also, probably then only the problem can be tackled.
दो चीजें हैं, पहला तो आपने कहा क्या हो सकता है, अगर देखिए विल है तो हो सकता है। उत्तराखंड में किया गया है, एक हमने स्टडी की थी तो उत्तराखंड में कुछ जगह पे हाँ टू सम एक्सटेंट वी हैव आइडेंटिफाइड 100 ईयर रिटर्न पीरियड लेवल्स और वहाँ पे डिमार्केट भी कर दिया गया है। पर उत्तराखंड की प्रॉब्लम अलग है क्योंकि यहाँ पे पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी कम है। दिल्ली के लिए दो तीन चीज़ें हैं। पहला तो है कि जब रक्षा की भक्षण बन जाए, जो दिल्ली में अक्षर धाम का मंदिर है, बहुत प्रसिद्ध मंदिर है, आई एम नॉट अगेंस्ट टेम्पल्स बट दैट टेम्पल इज इन फ्लड, ठीक है। दूसरा जो आपने कहा कि पीपल वेट, एक्चुअली वो सारा एक वो खेल है। अगर मैं आपसे कहूँ कि आप यहाँ से हट जाइए, मैं आपको 50 रुपये दूंगा, तो आप सोचेंगे भाई पैसे मिलने के चांस है, आप बैठी रहिए। थोड़ी देर में आपको पता है वो आके 100 रुपये कहेगा, तो कंपनसेशन इज प्रोवाइडेड, बट देयर कैन बी compensation can be used to control the behavior also. हम ये कह रहे हैं, वहाँ पे क्या होता है आप लोगों को सबको पता होगा ना, जो मैडम बता रही है कि यमुना के किनारे पे लोगों ने अपनी झोपड़ी अपनी बना रखी है, उनसे कहो कि फ्लड आ रही है वो नहीं निकलेंगे। जब पानी बिल्कुल वहाँ पे आ जाएगा, जब टीवी के कैमरे आ जाएंगे, उनको कंपनसेशन मिलने की बात आएगी, तो वो लोग कंपनसेशन लेके हट जाएंगे, और जैसे फ्लड हटेगी फिर वो वापस आ जाएंगे। जैसा पिक्यूलियर, तो कुछ जगह पे उन्होंने कर रखा है कि भाई कंपनसेशन तो देंगे, और उसके बाद फिर कोई जना यहाँ पे रहेगा नहीं, दोबारा आके बसेगा नहीं। तो यू गिव कंपनसेशन वंस योर प्रॉब्लम इज सॉल्व। अपने केस में कंपनसेशन बिकम्स रिकरेंट, हर साल फ्लड आएगी, हर साल निकाली आएंगी, फोटो खींचेंगे, कैमरे आएंगे और कंपनसेशन कटेगा फिर। तो समस्या आपकी वही की वही, मतलब दवाई तो खाली पर परहेज नहीं, इस तरह की बात है। तो आई थिंक द वे आवर सिस्टम वर्क्स दैट हैज टू बी चेंज, देन इट कैन बी। एनी अदर सजेशन? तो आप लोग तो सब लोग अभी यंग हैं, कुछ दिनों बाद आप लोग जाके बड़ी बड़ी पोजीशंस अक्वायर करेंगे, आप लोग इस पोजीशन में होंगे कि इसको चेंज किया जाए, तो क्या आपके आइडिया, ये फ्लड प्लेन वाली प्रॉब्लम कैसे सॉल्व हो सकती है? आई थिंक आप लोग कभी बैठ के आपस में बात करिए, बिकॉज you will be the future leaders.
Maybe demarcation should be clear.
देखिए
No, no
हमारे देश में एक आइडियल फ्लड प्लेन जोन का एक्ट भी बना था और वो 2-3 स्टेट को छोड़ के किसी एक स्टेट ने उसको लागू नहीं किया।
कब बना था सर ये?
हाँ?
कब?
ये तो आइडियल बिल तो बना हुआ है, सिर्फ उत्तराखंड में और मणिपुर 2-3 स्टेट में इम्प्लीमेंट हुआ।
सर,
बाकी
बिहार
स्टेट
बहुत ज्यादा इससे ये
बिहार के बारे में क्या करें? कोई लगाना नहीं चाहता ना उसको।
क्यों इसका कोई पॉलिटिकल रीजन?
पॉलिटिकल रीजन है भाई, लोग नदी के किनारे रहना चाहते हैं, वहाँ पे प्रॉपर्टी की वैल्यू ज्यादा होती है।
एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन की भी तो जिम्मेदारी है ना,
एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के जो लोग होंगे उनके खुद के मकान होंगे उधर। देयर इज अ सिटी कॉल्ड सूरत, ओके, सूरत में बहुत फ्लड आती थी और वहाँ पे एक डैम बना सूरत के अपस्ट्रीम में कॉल्ड उकाई डैम। उकाई डैम आने के बाद सूरत में फ्लड आनी कम हो गई, तो उसका एक नतीजा ये हुआ कि लोगों ने नदी के अंदर मकान बनाने शुरू कर दिए, या फ्लड तो आएगी नहीं।
जब आएगा
और जब आई फ्लड आई 2-2 मंजिल तक मकान उनके डूब गए। तो
कोर्ट भी जिम्मेदार है, कोर्ट भी ऐसा स्ट्रिक्ट बता सकते हैं कि
ये
ऐसा
सब जिम्मेदार है, किसी एक को कहना बड़ा मुश्किल है। पहला तो जो बना रहा है उसको क्या इतनी समझ नहीं है, जो मकान बना रहा है अपना 50 लाख का, उसको इतनी तो समझ होगी, है ना। तो किसी एक को ब्लेम करने से फायदा नहीं, कहते ना हम आपने सब बन गए। होल सिस्टम इज लाइक दैट।
एजुकेशन फील्ड में भी काम ऐसा नहीं करता, अच्छे से पढ़े लोग लिखे लोग ही ऐसे करते हैं। और
पढ़े लिखे लोग, जो चेन्नई की फोटो दिखाई थी वहाँ पे पढ़े लिखे लोग रहते हैं। तो पढ़े लिखे लोगों से मतलब ये नहीं है, बल्कि अब तो मुझे लगता है कि जो कम पढ़े हैं उनमें ज़्यादा समझ होती है। जो गांव के लोग हैं वो ज़्यादा समझदार होते हैं। शहर में जो
गाँव के लोग बोलते हैं प्लास्टिक का यूज का इस्तेमाल तो शहर ने ही सिखाया है। आज सरकार डंडे मार रही है प्लास्टिक यूज नहीं करो।
Okay, let us cover this technical for relevant times for question. So this is another impact of urbanization called urban heat island. उसमें क्या होता है कि ये आपको एक पिक्चर दी गई है, there is a urban area and there is a rural area. ये देखा गया है, this is shown by the data also that in urban area the temperatures are higher than the temperatures in the surrounding rural areas. And in some cases, the variation can be very high. It could be 1 to 5 or 7 degrees. But in some cases, the difference can be very high. So this phenomena is called urban heat island. The urban areas work as a heat island. The amount of heat in the air or in the ground in urban areas is much higher than the surrounding rural areas or suburban areas. Okay. अब इसकी broad detail में देखें। Okay. अर्बन हीट आइलैंड क्या होता है, जो सरफेस पहले परमेबल था and वहाँ वेजिटेशन था, that is replaced by impermeable areas, high visibility surface and reduced shading. जो trees है, they provide us shading. They also provide moisture through evapotranspiration. But if the trees are removed, then there is no shading, less moisture, and less infiltration of water. And water, when evaporates, it cools. इसको कहते हैं evaporative cooling. So, because of absence of these processes, the urban areas become what is called heat islands, lot of heated areas are there. Another thing which happens is growing vehicular population. In rural areas, you have less number of vehicles, the distance covered is also less. That means fossil fuel is burnt in a much less quantity. But in urban areas, fossil fuels are also burnt. If you are passing on the road, suppose a big car passes with air conditioner on, you will see suddenly gust of warm air. Okay. So it is emitting a lot of heat. And that is all building in the air, leading to this urban heat island effect. इसके कई सारे impact है urban heat island पे. One impact is that suppose there is a city and the winds are going in this direction from this side to this side. So typically in this side you have large rains and more intense. This is because these buildings produce a lot of turbulence and there is a lot of heat generation which leads to more convective storms. So urban heat island is one reason which is causing change in precipitation and many other things. And this is in fact proving to be dangerous to the health also. There are some studies which say that these urban heat islands, they are not good for livelihood, they are bad for health. So health aspects are there. Now, to overcome all this, IPCC has been now proposing what is called climate resilient development. What is climate resilient development? This is a development which combines strategy to adapt to climate change. You modify yourself so that the harmful impacts of climate change can be managed, and there are actions to reduce GHG emission. So this is the mitigation part. Climate change can be managed two ways. One is you mitigate, take some action so that climate does not change. What are those actions? If the warming is lesser, then climate change will be lesser. So mitigation actions are the actions which try to reduce warming due to climate change. What is mitigation? Mitigation की बात कर रहे थे.
The way mitigation is the way how to prevent the impact of climate change.
So that is mitigation. Other is adaptation means you change your behavior so that climate change does not harm you. Okay. For example, in this winter season, we are all wearing woolen clothes. We have adapted ourselves so that cold weather does not impact us. Okay. Now, climate change, of course, presents risks, and these risks keep on increasing with warming. There are studies which show that what are going to be the risks with 1 degree centigrade warming, 2 degree centigrade warming, and so on. So, what is the climate resilient development? This is a framework which combines adaptation and mitigation, and the actions could be reduce poverty and hunger, because poor people have less adaptive capacity. Those who are hungry, they have less adaptive capacity, they are more exposed. Improve health and livelihoods, and provide clean energy and water. If you provide clean energy, the energy whose generation does not lead to additional warming, that would be good for climate. If you provide clean water, then the diseases would be less, deaths would be much less. Then safeguard ecosystems on lakes, rivers, and oceans. This is a concept which comes back again and again, that green development should be something that we should practice. We should develop our resources, but in such a way that ecosystems are not damaged. So these are green development pathways. And finally, each country has different capacities, different opportunities. See, all this requires money, this requires resources, which is not uniform. So depending upon resources, different countries will have different adaptive capacity, and this type of development is urgent because there are predictions which say that if warming is more than 2 degrees, then some regions will find it very difficult to practice climate resilient development. And you will be knowing that already the warming has crossed 1 degree, And if the present trend continues, then maybe in next 15-20 years, by 2050, we will cross this 2-degree warming. And thereafter, situations are likely to become extremely difficult. So this was about climate resilient development. Now I have few slides about the issues in urban areas in India. These are, I think, well known to all of you. But since many of you are research scholars, I have some ideas which you can pursue as part of your research thesis, as part of your future studies. So there are here 5 main areas as far as urban hydrology is concerned. First thing is urban drainage design. See, the design practices are quite old. These are based on old data, but as you saw in the recent times, rainfall behaviors are changing. Intensity, duration, frequencies are changing. So we need to modify the procedures to estimate design storm, then design for the sewage networks, the networks which transport storm water that needs to be changed. We should be able to better assess time of concentration. That tells us how much response time we have. And finally, the design and drainage manuals. These require to be updated, keeping in view the new data and the new properties of climate. Then urban heat island effect is going to be very important for our big urban areas particularly. So what are the impacts of UHI on rainfall amount, rainfall intensity, and extreme events, and how the water bodies help in countering urban heat island? There are studies, for example, studies have been conducted for Bangalore, which say that as you have more urban water bodies, more ponds, the urban heat island effect is less. As you have more vegetation, urban heat island effect is less. But how then we can plan our cities so that this impact is reduced? Then there is a type of development which is called low impact development. Development which impacts our ecosystems in a minor way. There can be significant impact, there can be less impact. So we need to again find out what kind of development practices we can adopt so that the adverse impact on environment is small. Then flooding we have seen. Urban flash floods are one phenomenon which are causing difficulty. Even a short rainfall event, but of high magnitude, high intensity, is leading to substantial flooding. So this is one topic which needs to be studied. And then as a result of urbanization, what kind of changes take place in surface and subsurface properties and how we can mitigate those changes. That is something which needs to be studied. This is covered in, somebody said that I did not cover about the river channel bed. So changes due to urbanization in river channel bed and subsurface properties, this is another thing which needs to be studied. And finally, okay, that's all I have. So we need to do some manthan, think about the problem, and through that maybe we can have a better understanding of the system. We will be in a better position to manage our system. The development will be in consonance with the environment or ecology or what we call sustainable development. So I'll stop here. You can take up some questions or discussions in case you have some ideas. So, any suggestion, questions, comments? Okay, thank you very much.